People of these American states united, welcome to the show, the Constitution explained in children's terms. Forget about Limbaugh and Beck. It's time to turn them off and tune in right here. Make yourself comfortable for the next 2 hours and be ready to be reaffiliated with the founding of our great union. This is the show you all have been waiting for. This is the show where you will cast aside your indoctrination into the system of lies and relearn the construct of the Union of States as established and ratified in the year of 1789. I am your host, known only as Harry. I strive to assist the people of the states in recognizing the true heritage of liberty and freedom which the establishers of the Union of Individual States had in plan for their future generations. That heritage was not only misunderstood from the initiation of the contract between states, but it also was reconstructed into the monster which we endure today. The people have the power to cage that monster. However, extremely few recognize and utilize those powers. We will be maintaining strict rules of conduct when we are on the air and ask that all callers do the same. This is an educational show, and we desire that children are able to listen to the discussion here without fear of being offended with foul or hateful language. Please feel free to send a chat message or call into the show. The call-in number is 516-595-8117. That's 516-595-8117. We would love to hear from you. Welcome to the show, everyone. Whether you are listening live, whether you are listening in the archives, or whether you're listening on YouTube, welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight's show, we are covering Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 through 10, the duties of the Congress and their powers to perform them for the states. Article 1, Section 8. Clause 1. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and the general welfare of the United States, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. The Congress shall have power. The first part of this clause is expected to be taken as the first part of each clause to follow. It reads, the Congress shall have power. All of the other clauses in this section begin with the word to, so it is logical to accept that the to in each other clause which follows is an extension to the word phrase, the Congress shall have power. It would have made more sense to place that word phrase in on its own at the beginning of the section, end it with a colon, and then follow it up with the remaining clauses. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. The very first power granted to Congress is probably the most controversial power within the complete document. It is controversial because it is arguable as to the what and as to the how which the Congress can lay taxes or how they are to collect them. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 states that all direct taxes are to be apportioned among the states according to their respective numbers determined by a census of the states. The debatable question here is whether the taxes mentioned in this clause, granting the Congress to lay and collect them, are the same direct taxes as mentioned in Article 1. This clause may denote that the Congress has the power to lay and collect those taxes. This clause may also denote that the tax mentioned here is a different kind of tax, leaving the Congress in full control to lay and collect that tax. Bouvier's Law Dictionary of 1856 describes the idea that there are only two types of taxes, indirect and direct. Indirect taxes, according to Bouvier's, are taxes on articles of consumption. Direct taxes are taxes placed directly upon something in particular. Examples of taxes presently in place by the Congress are corporation tax, income tax, and Social Security contributions. In order for these taxes to be constitutionally sound, the tax would be calculated upon the entire Union as a whole. All of the taxable amounts of the corporations would be tallied, the tax calculated, and then the tax bill would be divided among the states. The states receive the bill, not the people, according to the population numbers of the most recent census within each of the states. The same method would apply to income tax and Social Security tax. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect duties, imposts, and excises, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. The portion of this section which states uniform through the United States is one of the few places in the document where the term the United States is not referring to the Congress in assembly. It is referring to the states in union while reinstating the same principle which was contained within Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, in which the taxing upon the Union was to be shared equally by the people, not by the states, but by the people. No state, because of population, was to have more tax burden to fund the Union than the next. This was the method the framers intended to employ in order to keep the states in harmony while promoting tranquility among them. These basic principles of the Constitution, which reestablished the Union of States, were disregarded at the very early age, 18 months old to be exact. On March 3rd of 1791, the Congress did just exactly the opposite of what they were established to do. First Congress, Section 3, Chapter 15, states the following: An act repealing, after the last day of June next, the duties heretofore laid upon distilled spirits imported from abroad, and laying others, as in duties, in their stead, or in substitute or replace, and also upon spirits distilled within the United States, and for appropriating the same. George Washington and Alexander Hamilton worked together to push this tax through the Congress. It is important to understand here that there is no provisions granted to the President of the United States of America to promote any law or any bill. The President is supposed to be a neutral party, inspecting the bills laid forth by the Congress and determine the constitutionality of each and every one of them before signing them into law. Bouvier's Law Dictionary of 1856 describes duties as, it is often used as equivalent to customs. Impost as, a duty on imported goods and merchandise. Excises as, an inland imposition, paid sometimes upon the consumption of the commodity and frequently upon the retail sale. The whiskey tax did not meet the definition of either one of these taxes. It is just as important to note that the Congress was granted no power to create law which could be deemed a morality law or to deem an action of the individual as being unrighteous. The whiskey tax was plain and simply a sin tax. Even taxing imported whiskey any more than any other imported product was beyond the intended scope of the Congress. The job of the Congress is to protect the economies of the states. The proper use of duties, imposts, and excises is to prevent the state economies from faltering due to the import of cheaper foreign products, all the while funding the Congress in the performance of their duties. Hamilton himself even said that the tax would serve more as a measure of social discipline than as a source of revenue. Alexander Hamilton was the Secretary of the Treasury under President Washington, and more government revenue was needed to pay the debt. Hamilton believed that the import duties were as high as the people would tolerate. He promoted the Congress to legislate an excise tax on domestically produced distilled spirits. This was to be the first tax by the Congress to be imposed upon a domestic product. Hamilton considered the whiskey excise as a luxury tax and would be the least obnoxious tax which the government could employ. Many social reformers agreed and hoped that a sin tax would raise public awareness about the harmful effects of alcohol. The excise also was not uniform. The larger distilleries, George Washington himself owned one of the largest, paid a flat fee which usually lowered the larger producer's tax on a gallon of distilled spirits to 6 cents per gallon, whereas the smaller farmers, who only operated their stills on a seasonal basis and only in years of excess crop production, were forced to pay 9 cents per gallon. And finally, it is extremely important to note that nowhere in the Constitution established for the United States of America was the Congress granted the power to operate from within a sovereign state. Their powers were limited throughout the document to administering to the states themselves the tasks assigned within the document and to delegate upon disputes between states. Nothing more and nothing less. The Congress was granted the power to act upon the commerce which crossed the state borders. The whiskey tax was a tax upon the production of the distilled spirits, not the interstate commerce of the same. This principle in itself made the whiskey tax unconstitutional. The Congress did, however, have the power to set an excise tax upon the sale of whiskey to the consumer and task the states to collect it. Many will talk about states' rights as if they had any knowledge of the original design of the Union. The design of the framers, contained within that Constitution, had nothing to do with states' rights. When a person refers to states' rights, it is then difficult for that person to grasp the notion of the federal government, which was established in the document of 1789 by the states, as being inferior to the governments of the states. It is fact that the states granted the federal government its rights. The Constitution for the United States of America granted the federal government the right to govern the Union of States, not the states themselves, however, to govern it in specificity. The states had unrestrained rights before that Constitution was written. It is the Congress of the Union which was granted rights by the states and was allocated a list of tasks which the Congress had the duty to perform for the states. The Act of Congress in 1791 also stated that the said duties shall be collected in the same manner by the same persons under the same regulations and subject to the same forfeitures and other penalties as those heretofore laid. In other words, the Congress was legislating that the same custom-collecting methods utilized in collecting inter-nation commerce could now be utilized in collecting this tax within the states. The Congress does not have this power granted them within that Constitution. George Washington defined the revenue districts for the whiskey excise, appointed the revenue supervisors and inspectors, and set their pay in November of 1791. Nowhere in that Constitution did it grant the President the power to place federal agents within the state borders to collect a tax. The Congress had the power to place agents at borders in order to regulate commerce and collect import duties. The Congress had no taxing power over the exports of the states. Taxing agents being placed to collect taxes within the states from the individual and the products which they produced was not a power granted to the Congress by the states. The Congress shall have power to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. The Congress has the power to collect all of the listed taxes in order to provide for the common defense and the general welfare of the Union itself. This clause had nothing to do with the individual or the individual states. All welfare programs administered by the Congress to the people of the states is unconstitutional. It is important to note that the structure of the Constitution for the United States of America was of such to prevent the theft of one state for the benefit of another. That Constitution was established within a union of states where, in most of the states, the voters for representatives and the voters for their own state legislative bodies, which were to choose the United States senators of their state, were usually tax-paying landowners. It was up to the states to decide who, within their state, had the right to vote, and it remained that way until the forced ratification of Amendment 14. There were mostly no voters in the states who could vote for someone else to pay for a benefit until the 14th Amendment. The voting for representation was not only for the taxing, but also for what those taxes were to fund, and was primarily allowed to individuals who would have the necessity in paying the bill to their state, which would then pay the bill to the Congress. Clause 2. The Congress shall have power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. This does not mean to borrow money on the credit of the states. This says to borrow money on the credit of the United States, which is purely the Congress in assembly. It does not say from whom they can borrow. The Congress can borrow from the states, from an individual, or from another country. The practice of borrowing, however, should only be in the case of emergency, especially to fund a war. However, any war funded, especially with borrowed money, should only be a war of defense, not of offense. An offensive war is never waged in the case of an emergency. Offensive wars are based only in the fear of the people. The Congress was to be the rock of the Union. They were to be the responsible ones. They were granted the power to borrow money on the credit based on their ability to collect that money from the states in order to pay the debt. They also were to be the responsible ones and not spend money for doing anything other than performing the duties which were assigned to them by the states. Clause 3. The Congress shall have power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. In order to promote tranquility and the general welfare of the Union, the Congress was tasked with the duty to regulate the commerce among the states and among other nations, including the Indian tribes. The Union, under the Articles of Confederation, was not tranquil, and the general welfare of the Union was deteriorating. The commerce between the individual states was a shambles, and the states were not cooperating well among themselves. The difficulty with interstate commerce was one of the main reasons that the Union was reestablished under the Constitution for the United States of America in 1789. This clause was to only prevent economical damage of any of the states due to despicable business practices favoring another state or any other foreign entity. This clause was never intended to be the cash for legislation manipulator of today's Union. It was never purposed for the sake of the Congress to create legislation which regulated an industry by picking and choosing winners, nor to line the pockets of those Congress members who would push through legislation to give one corporation an advantage over another. This clause had far more to do with preserving the rights of a butter manufacturer transporting a wagon full of butter from Wisconsin to Ohio and not being taxed out of profitability by Illinois and Indiana. Clause 4. The Congress shall have power to establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. This clause grants the power to the Congress to establish uniform laws, laws which were to be left up to the states to enforce properly. The clause grants no other power to the Congress in relation to the borders of the states. The Congress is to establish procedures in how an individual could immigrate into a state and become a citizen thereof. This clause has nothing to do with the federal government closing or opening the borders of a state. This clause gave the Congress no say as to who could immigrate into a state. This clause only tasks the Congress with the chore to legislate rules of immigration, or in other words, the rules of becoming a citizen of a state. These rules would be the same whether an individual was immigrating from Chile to Kentucky or whether a citizen of Tennessee were immigrating to Florida. The Congress was also tasked with setting a uniform set of rules on how an individual or a corporation could declare bankruptcy. Clause 5. The Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. This says that the Congress has the power to coin money. It does not grant them the power to create paper money based in debt, as the fiat money which flies off the printing press is created today. The coining of money by each state was another reason the Union under the Articles of Confederation was not tranquil and the general welfare of the Union was deteriorating. The practice was making commerce between the states an arduous task. The Congress is supposed to be the responsible ones. They have the power to create coins and regulate their value, including the value in relationship to the coin of other nations. They have the power to create coin and use it to accomplish the tasks which they are to perform for the states. However, they are to use that method of fundraising with responsibility. The Congress should never create coin and distribute that money in larger quantity than they have reason to believe that they will recollect in taxes. The Congress also had the duty to fix the standard of weights and measures. The Congress's duty was not limited to only deciding that we were to use the avoirdupois English system instead of the metric system. However, that is only an example of a portion of their duty. Both of these constitutional principles were intended to aid in the promoting of tranquility and peace among the individual states. Clause 6. The Congress shall have power to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting and the securities and current coin of the United States. This clause is pretty straightforward. However, as in most of the clauses in this Constitution, this clause does not necessarily grant the power to enforce or punish the crime of counterfeiting, even though the crimes undermine the Congress's financial means of performing their duties. The states were bound contractually to enforce the laws of the Union of the States. The Congress was purely granted the power to provide for that enforcement and punishment. The Congress was to provide the states with the means in order to enforce the laws without financial loss to their state by doing so. Clause 7. The Congress shall have power to establish post offices and post roads. The Congress was to provide for communication between the states. At the time, writing was the only means of communication across distances, so the Congress was tasked with forming the postal system in order to assist the people of the states to stay in contact with each other. It would have been proper to make amendments to this clause as technologies developed. Providing the states in Union agreed, the development of highways and airline routes and other means of transporting information, maybe even the Internet, could have been added to the tasks of the Congress. Those amendments have never been proposed or ratified, yet the national government took it upon themselves to develop them anyway, which is absolutely beyond the lawful limits of the Congress. Clause 8. The Congress shall have power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. The Congress was tasked to secure our patents for at least a limited time. In the words, by securing, it is apparent that the Congress should be the ones making sure that all patent laws are adhered to. It shouldn't take an inventor's complete bank account transferred to some greedy lawyer's vault in order to protect their intellectual property. The laws should be of such strictness that nobody dare to rob the laborious ingenuities of the creators. This is one of the few clauses where the Congress would have the power to enforce and punish violators of federal law, especially when the violators' violations cross state boundaries. It is extremely important for the people who wish to restore sanity to the present political situation, which all of the people of these American states are suffering under currently, is they understand that Clause 3 through Clause 8 of this section of this article are the absolute only listed things or tasks which the Congress of the United States is to perform for the states other than providing for the common defense of the states. The list is simple. Number 1, regulate commerce which crosses state borders in order to promote tranquility between the states. Number 2, set a uniform means of immigrating into a state to promote the harmony of free and peaceful coexistence among the people. Number 3, create a uniform money base and set weight and measure standards to promote economic stability among the states. Number 4, provide for the punishment for anyone who violates the sanctity of a sound money supply. Number 5, provide for the communication between the states. Number 6, protect the intellectual property of the people of the states, especially when that property is promoted among the states. Clauses 1 and 2 are purely the means in which the Congress was given the power to fund performing those 6 tasks to fund the few judicial powers of the United States court system, and to fund the protection of the states. Clause 9. The Congress shall have power to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. This clause does not grant the Congress the power to create and build federal courts throughout the states. It must be understood that the Supreme Court of the United States was not granted the powers which they have assumed from the very beginning of the Union of the States. Their powers were limited to interstate disagreements or non-adherence to the few laws upon the Union which the Congress had the power to legislate. The Supreme Court of the United States is also not assigned the power to interpret their Constitution while creating even more law. That court system has only the power to adjudicate upon the crimes against their Constitution. The Congress, not the Supreme Court, had the task of determining if tribunals or lower courts were necessary throughout the individual states in order to promote justice among the Union. The Congress's job was to prevent injustices that might occur purely because of the distance necessary to travel to have a case appear in the court system. Because these tribunals were inferior to the Supreme Court, any decision of a tribunal could be appealed and then the case would go to the higher court. Clause 10. The Congress shall have the power to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. It is important to note something mentioned in this clause that is not seen anywhere else in this Constitution. The Congress is granted the power to punish. The Congress was granted in this clause the power to not only define but also to punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas or crimes against nations. Neither the Congress nor the Supreme Court have any granted power to define laws nor punish them if those laws are committed solely within the borders of a state, other than patent violations as mentioned in that section. All of the crimes listed here do not take place within the borders of a single state. Bouvier's Law Dictionary defines the law of nations as the science which teaches the rights subsisting between nations or states and the obligations correspondent to those rights. The Congress was not granted the power to punish any crime committed on the land of the Union of the States unless it is a law emanating from one nation to another, or in the case of the states in Union, a crime emanating from one state to another state. That's our topics for tonight. On the next show, we will be wrapping up Article 1, Section 8 with clauses 11 to 18. Those clauses cover the war powers of the Congress, their legislative powers upon themselves, and grant the Congress the authority to enforce the few powers which the Congress was approved by the states to possess within the states. That's 516-595-8117. And I recognize that phone number that just clicked. I want to talk.
Hello.
Ed, the anti-Fed, how's it going?
All right. Yeah. Good job today. Appreciate it.
You can't hide from me with that phone number anymore. I got it in my brain. I see it. I know it's you. So you can't hide from me.
Good. But towards the end there, I went about Article 6, or Section 6 or whatever article, and when you're talking about the right to, your property, your intellectual property and stuff, the right to patents. That is one thing that changes a lot in this country. And it's just something that it's pretty crazy how it works, because there's a lot of, of powers behind it. And, they extend some things, cut some things, when things wrong. Then they look at the international patents, or the patent. It's really hard to take, because there's so much of, patents out there that are being confused in China and other countries. They keep duplicating our stuff, That's what Trump was getting on about. But patents is a really tough issue.
I know. I've actually have some inventions just sitting on the floor that if I ever do take the time to finish them and go anywhere, and I'm successful, I'm just going to sell them to somebody. I'm not going to go through all that.
Right, it's a lot to go through, and I just think they overdo the extensions and adding on and this and that. I just think pensions should be, like 5 years and renewed one time. In 10 years, if you can't profit enough, how long are you going to keep away from it?
The clause says limited time, but sometimes all they do is just make a minor change and then go get the new patent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's other people that make minor changes and go get a new patent off of your idea too.
It's an attorney's banquet, is what it is. It's not an inventor's world anymore.
No, it's not, and that's why the people get all their ideas bought out. Yeah, it's something that really needs to be looked into, but I just don't know if there's any solutions for it.
Yeah. Did you go ahead, finish your point?
Oh, okay. I just want to say that there should be ways to do the pattern without I don't know, so much work and red tape.
Yeah. It takes a fortune. By the way, you can say hi to Paul. He's listening in tonight, but he's been having computer problems, so he's at least listening in, but he doesn't have a microphone.
Okay. Hey, Paul. Hopefully it's going good out there in Texas. Stay free, man. Yeah, so.
That one was a bit of work. I'll tell you what, I've been working the last 2 weeks on that one, and I've got a lot of research before I'm ready to present the war powers and, especially Clause 16. I've got a lot more research. I'm hoping I'm ready in 2 weeks to do that one. If not, it'll be 3 weeks.
Yeah, that is the last part's really tough. Like you said, you go to that one site I told you about, Patriot Corps.
What's that?
Article 17, Patriot Corps.
Yeah, I got that one written down. I've got to remember to look at that during my. I got it I can see it right in front of me, written down on my notes. I've got to remember to look at that. I'm going to write.
That's section 17. He believes
right there.
That's where all the problems.
Yeah, I do have clause 17 written right next to it. So yeah, I got to remember to look at that. But tonight's show was a lot of work, man. I just a half hour before the show managed to finish editing that and get it uploaded. And I'm sure you'll agree I sound a lot, and Paul even mentioned it to me on a text, I sure sound a lot better when I pre-record than to sit there and stumble through it and have to do all the stopping and reading. A lot of work.
Yeah, it was like it was already recorded.
It was.
That's cool.
Recorded and edited.
Yep, good. Well, I'm going to have to get going early tonight, so it was good talking to you. Keep it up, man.
Appreciate you listening again. Thanks a lot, Ed.
All right.
Thank you. Take care. Let's see who's calling.
Hey, Harry, it's Rob.
Rob? Do I know a Rob?
I believe you do.
How's it going, friend?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Did you manage to get in at the beginning and catch the whole show?
No, I was working, and I just got on. What a miss.
Man. Oh, man. Well, the whole dialogue is in the group. You can always go to the group, and you can read what took 24 minutes to play. You can read that in 2 minutes, can't you?
Yeah, I looked at that. It looks like 2 minutes should do it. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I just wanted to call and let you know that I was trying to get in to listen, but I'll look forward to reading all the stuff tonight when I get home.
Yeah. There, and this will be in the archives, and I've been managing to get the YouTube videos produced pretty quickly and get them up too. So it'll be up as soon as it's ready.
Cool. All right, man. Well, take care.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
Howdy back to you.
All right.
Bye. Well, I think if we get one more caller tonight, we might set a record for the show. I know we've had 2 callers before. I'm not sure if we've had 3. 516-595-8117. Free car to the 4th call. No, Paul can't afford that, so I better not do that. Well, we might auction off his truck on show, though. Oh, we got another caller.
Hello, Harry. This is Paul. I want my free car.
No, it's your truck that the third caller gets. So you won. No paperwork involved.
No. I can't get the microphone to work right.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to reboot in to use it right now.
And that may or may not be the reason. You would have to try or wait till next show to find out.
Yeah, that's just too many things on my computer. But no, it was a good read today. It was concise. It was point, and I'm hoping that people will have a better understanding of it.
I hope I did my job. I'm not paid very well for it, but I hope I earned what I'm paid for.
Well, it shouldn't be a job. It should be a passion.
I think you know it is. I think you don't even have to say that. You know it is. I mean, I want to finish my book. I want to sell 10 million copies, and this show is helping me finish the book. But, if I sell 10 copies, if I sold 10 copies and they passed it around to 1 million, each person passed it around to 1 million people, I'd be happy because it is my passion. It's not my goal for life other than getting what I've understood from those pages, get it out to the public.
Right. So, are we going to see you this weekend?
You know I can't afford to come down there.
But you said this is your job. You got to come down and speak.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
We're headed out west to see the sun in May. That's going to take as much finances as I can try to not keep the whole load on the wife financially as it is. Hey, somebody is commenting on the Facebook page. Let's see what we got. That better not be you, Paul.
Nope. It could be Sean.
Let's see who is and what they got to say. Ask. Did you catch Ed was on for a few minutes?
Yeah.
Rob says Paul should be giving his truck away. Well, we gave it away, Rob. We gave it away right back to him. He was third caller. Now, if you just hung up and called back, Rob, you would have got his truck, and I'm sure that's what you wanted.
I got a good truck. It's just cosmetic.
Yeah. Well, for some reason, his answer was 3 letters and an exclamation point, and the 2 letters were N and O.
But yeah, we're working on getting ready for this weekend. We're Ed Maddox. He mentioned
Yeah.
He moved to my place.
So,
and
good deal.
He's putting up all the paperwork for a weekend.
This weekend means nothing unless you sit here on air and do a plug so people know what this weekend is.
Well, we're having the Texas American Republic Reestablishment Party as been done by North Carolina over 20 years ago. And if you look up at ncar.org or americasremedy.com and America's Remedy YouTube videos, you'd see what their process and their procedures are to get out of this system, go back to a constitution-based.
Let me jump in there just for a second. Because a little weak there.
Mm-hmm.
He's mentioning Americas, as in plural, americasremedy.com. Go ahead, Paul.
But they set the benchmark of a process and a procedure versus all this patriot guru mythology stuff out there, and they are committed. They have been committed for the last 20 years, and they're not getting the recognition that, process. Check out this guy's process. They've been just doing their thing, back in the, stepping out of the spotlight and just being quiet about what they're doing, but they want to promote, for those that are interested. And they're not going, hey, look at us. send us money, Go ahead.
I'm getting more and more people in Michigan that are at least, perking up their ears. Nobody's said, hey, let's have a meeting yet, but at least they're perking up their ears. And I think, Rob, you've got a meeting next week on this subject, right? What, 30 people going to show up?
Good.
No, he doesn't. I'm pulling his chain here. That's all I'm doing. I'm waiting for him to type something in.
Well, you gave him too much chain then.
He's typing in right now. He's probably saying, oh, no, it's 130. Yeah, right. He said, I wish. Rob, if you're still right there, I see you still on the board. I can bring you back on, and the three of us can talk for a little while. There's nothing else going on in the show, and unless someone else calls in, we're going to cut this short. So you want me to bring you back on, and the three of us can just sit here and talk for a little while? He says, yeah. Well, you're back on.
I'm on?
Yeah, you're on.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Rob.
Paul, can you hear him?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm a little behind in all this stuff. I've been working like crazy. But, yeah, man, I'm excited to dig in. I've been making a commitment to dig in at least an hour a day. So, trying to get this stuff going. I can't get anybody. Man, people just gripe, and nobody wants to talk about a solution. It just baffles me.
Yeah, I know.
But you're right. Never give up. Keep trying. At least I'm raising my kids right. So
no, that's the most important thing.
Some of the next generation will have it.
Well, what we plan to do for our event this weekend is we're gonna record it, and we're gonna post it so that hopefully by seeing what North Carolina did, and it's now seeing Texas doing the same thing, it gets more people excited to say, yeah, actually it can be done versus people griping.
Yep.
Do you have what you need to convert that to a YouTube video?
Yeah, I'm taking the microphone down. Yeah, Ed's got the camera. We got the computers. We're ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, Harry, if you saw the video that we did for the first event that you attended.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, send me a link. I have not seen it.
Oh, okay. I mean, the sound quality wasn't up to par because we didn't have a proper microphone, but
I did.
I'm gonna take
I
this,
did see it.
Oh, okay.
I did see it. I just remembered I did see it.
Yeah. But I'm gonna take the microphone you sent me down so that we can get better sound.
Good.
Yeah.
Where do I find that on YouTube, Paul?
Hold on, let me ask you real quick.
Didn't catch that.
The Texas American Republic YouTube channel.
Okay. So how often do you guys have events down there? How often do you guys have events?
Well, it took us time for us to get all the paperwork put in order so that we can get this done properly. In Texas being a big state, we had to make sure that we get the most people that we can, that have to drive, a couple hundred miles. But once we get this done and established, we're planning to start having regular events.
We've been having about 3 a year.
Yeah, we do about 3 a year.
What's the turnout like?
Well, first one a couple years ago or a year ago was about 10. The next one was about 20 to 30, and the one that we're going to have this weekend, it looks like we might have anywhere from 50 to 100.
That's awesome, man. That's great growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texas is prime for it.
Yeah, well, we're tired of bowing down to the federal government and the state, or the de facto state that we have right now.
Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah.
With you. Got a couple little battles that I've been working on my own up where I am, so I'm tired of it.
Now,
Not enough people
Rob,
are.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you an Ohioan or are you a Michigander?
Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Michiganian.
Well, Michigander.
Michiganian.
Okay.
I don't know if it was you or David or man, I haven't heard from the other person I can think of right now. His name's not coming to me. I haven't heard from him.
Antoine?
No, Nevada.
Jared.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
one of you guys posted a while back a list of names, and Michigan was Michiganian. As far as the names from many, many years ago, it wasn't Michigander; it was Michiganian on that list.
I've read Michigander before.
Yeah, Michigander is what people would call themselves in Michigan, but on that list, which was an old list, it was Michiganian.
Well, that probably happened during the Reconstruction Act then.
Possible, yeah.
We don't like Michiganders, so the federal government's going to say, you're a Michigander. Or Michiganian.
Yeah, that sounds like something that's flying across the sky and you're shooting a shotgun at.
Yeah.
Gander.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with Jared about, I think early last week I had a conversation with him, and I'm planning on taking my kids out there to see him first part of August. My son's turning 18, so we're going to go out. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hey, Rob,
he's going to go give me some cliff jumping tips.
Well, I was going to contact him and see about meeting up with him somewhere in the beginning of May, because we're going to be in Las Vegas in the beginning of May seeing the kid.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob, is he going to give you cliff? Is he going to give you cliff jumping tips with or without the parachute?
Well, if we're jumping off cliffs, we don't use parachutes, man. Parachutes are for much higher altitude.
Okay.
I just did a wind tunnel jump last week. I just did a wind tunnel jump preparing for my skydiving adventure this summer.
That's the biggest regret I have in life. When I was younger, I had the chance to skydive, and I never did.
Well, it's never too late, Harry.
Oh, no, my back would never take that chute opening. That chute opening would just tear me apart.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Harry's not coming down to Texas for the weekend to see this historical event. Rob, you're also invited too if you want to come.
Oh, I know I'm invited. I can't make it though, man. Yeah, I'd love to, but how about the next time you have one? I'll try to make it a point to come down. Harry and I'll come together.
Good.
Yeah, I know how to find good airfare, Harry.
Well, we'll just have to see. We
can just drive my Prius down. Gets great gas mileage. It's only a 3-day trip.
Yeah, it's a long. It's not that long. Well, both ways. Yeah, both ways.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like to get that. All right, is Thomas Maddox and all those, like Sean Watson, are those guys all part of the event down there?
Oh yeah.
Is Sean Watson part of the event? I don't know.
Thomas Maddox.
He's he just walked out my front door. So
Oh.
yeah, he's part of it.
Right on.
Well, there might be an election between now and this weekend, isn't there?
And no, we're not holding elections yet. Not until we recertify or readopt the original Constitution of 1845, because we have to have an operational government guideline for us to, hold elections.
So, speaking of,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Well,
all we're doing right now is we're declaring the state is reestablished. Then we're going to go. Once that's done, then we can go to the deal with the Constitution and the principles of government.
So to do that, you need more than just one person, right? I mean,
we got good 50 people at least. So
no, he's
that's
asking
enough.
about Ohio.
Well, I'm talking about Ohio. Like I couldn't just like Harry and I couldn't just say, oh, there's two of us. We're reestablishing the 1851 Ohio constitutional government.
Well, I'd have to move to Ohio for that.
Oh, you're in Michigan. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
you're still one.
My next move is to the other side of the planet, so that's not going to help us none.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
you and myself.
You got 10 years though.
Yeah, probably more like 13, but I'm going to get something started in Michigan. If anybody else starts stepping forward, and I keep pulling those chains and keep tickling those feet, then I'll start something without anybody else raises their hand and say, let's do it. I'll meet with one person in Michigan. Jim, if you're out there.
Rob, you're gonna need more than one person to do this process, because you need to be able to establish a body politic.
Right. So what's a number to do that? I mean, I know it can't just be one because no man's an island, but like, what's a good reasonable number of people to do that?
I would say start with 10.
10?
Yeah.
Good grief. That'd be, man, if I could find it.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's hard. People here, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is, they want a solution, but they can't see the solution, so they don't get out of their chair and do something.
Right, but see, this is the problem, is that today everybody that wants to find a solution or do a solution, they're doing it individually, which gives them no status. You've got to have a group or organization that will back you up, because you've pledged to each other. You're creating your own. You're creating or reestablishing the state. The state is the people.
Right. Okay, so here's a question on that. If, like, what good does it do me? Like, Joseph Rory has that that notification to the governor. What good does it do me as an individual to send that notification and be all on my own if I'm the only person that's doing that?
In my opinion,
yeah,
it doesn't. I mean, who are your people?
Yeah. Right.
We've probably got hundreds of people across. We've probably got hundreds of people across both of our states that are the singular, the sovereign citizen, the oxymoron. That we could get something done if they would just stop and realize, hey, this is the solution. But they don't want to join us.
Yeah.
Nope. Too much misinformation.
Yeah.
The desperation gets people to grab a hold of whatever misinformation they can grab a hold of, and then they say fancy words, but they don't actually put anything into practice. And then they get so solidified in that stance of, well, this is the way I'm going to go, that you try to tell them anything else, and they're like, no thanks.
Yeah, that's probably the number one biggest reason I'm doing this show, and also doing the YouTube channel, is so more and more people will look and see, wait a minute, that wasn't the design.
Right. Yep.
No, the problem is that people know that there's something wrong, and they go to YouTube, and then all of a sudden they're going down a rabbit trail of patriot mythology, and since they're willing to listen and believe what they hear versus doing their due diligence of studying and researching and trying to understand it. They just want to be told what the problem is, and they're going to go with whatever sounds plausible, and then they get in trouble.
Yep.
The best thing anybody can do that is confused, knows there's a problem, they want to learn, is do their own research, and then start and go from there.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And cross-reference. But
yeah, cross-reference, do their own reading, and what's crazy is I'll see people posting about, like we need to read the Constitution again, and I'll comment, with a link to Harry's link for the understanding, in children's terms, and they don't follow that. It's like they just want somebody else to read the Constitution for them, or they're just relying on their quote unquote representatives to know what the Constitution is, instead of realizing that the power is in them and the power is in the people. And it's crazy, man. It's frustrating.
Or they don't have time to listen to a couple hours of shows. That's what really. No. They're too busy watching. Their reality TV and their TV series and all that stuff. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember this, Harry. That conversation we were having with that one girl who was all bent out of shape because her brother-in-law, who's a naval officer, couldn't feed his kids because of the government shutdown. Yeah. But that one guy, he's actually a friend of mine that I went to school with. He's like, "Oh, we got 3 constitutional law experts here." And this guy posts all the time about TV shows and so like stop watching that and actually do something to educate yourself on what it is you're talking about. Yep. Take a half hour at a time and learn something real.
But show me one constitutional law professor that is actually going to declare that the 14th Amendment was never properly ratified.
Oh no, they don't do their own study. They're just educated improperly, and they think because they have a degree, they know it all.
Yep.
They got their degrees because they were taught under the base of lies.
Yep. And it's too hard on their pride to admit that may not be the truth.
Yeah. Even though the truth is already written in the congressional record.
Yep.
Representative or Senator John Rarick, 1967, said the 14th Amendment is a fraud. Oh, because it's the truth. Nobody wants to read the truth.
Nope. What was that? That's 1967. What was that? I want to write that down.
John Rarick.
How do you spell that?
Rarick. Just you can Google Rarick's speech, 1967, and it's a congressional record that he claims or he states that the 14th Amendment is a fraud upon the people.
So Sean posted something the other day about the Texas objection to the 14th Amendment back, like in the when it was first being pushed, and I'd like to find Ohio's response to the 14th Amendment and the congressional record, but I mean that's a pretty large database. How would I find that?
Can you hold on? Yeah. All right. Here's Mr. Sean Watson.
Oh, right on.
Oh. Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey Sean.
What's going on, Sean?
Oh.
Hey, Rob Neff here.
Oh, okay, yeah. What's going on, Rob?
So I had a question. I actually posted this, and I commented on when you posted the congressional record for Texas's response to the 14th Amendment. And I wanted to find Ohio's response. I wanted to find a congressional record for what Ohio had to say, back when 14th was first being pushed. What?
Right.
How?
What I did was I went through some 1967 reports, and then I backtracked that source back to the Texas House Journal. Okay.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to go maybe even into some case files if there's nothing on it, and then backtrack, or just go directly to it in that time period. There should be a record on it somewhere within your state.
Wait a minute. What, in 1967 you're saying that's a specific year for all states?
No.
You lost. Huh?
No. I'm talking about where I went to find it first, 1967 report, and then I backtracked it to the Texas House Journal, in my case.
Okay, you're talking about the report that Paul just told Rob about. Find that report and then backtrack.
The John Rarick report?
I can send
whatever.
that link. I mean, in that 1967 report, it does mention Ohio, but it's not in length like Texas was, or Florida, or North Carolina.
Put that in the group for this show, would you, Sean?
Okay.
When you get a chance?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Who knows
right, guys.
who's listening that might
home.
possibly see that?
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
I thought you were driving. I thought I heard driving noises.
Yep. I just walked in the house and got to get my focus on the kids. So.
All right. Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks for joining.
Hey, we'll talk to y'all later.
All right. Bye. I think we just got another caller coming in. Caller, if you want to join the show, just click your number 1. We'll see a question mark. We'll put you on. Yeah, Paul, this is Tony. He just joined us. He didn't catch my monologue. He didn't catch any of our dialogue, but he's got some things to say. He said that he likes teaching about the Constitution. Let's see what he's got to say. So go on, Tony. Give us a little update on who you are and what you got to say.
Well, my name's Tony. I'm a constitutionalist. I've been studying the Constitution for over 15 years. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to point out that that this was a dream of activists for a very, very, very long time. It all started off right after the founding of British colonies, that people who have been refugees for many different reasons, but religion's one of them, but there are many different ones. They found a place where they could be left alone because these guys were doing it in hiding. They had to, they made little secret societies that they hid in, and they wrote books. And the book that the Constitution is based on is a book written by Emmerich de Vattel. And that book is known as the Law of Nations.
That's the Law of Nations. Everybody knows that. Yeah, it's written in the Constitution.
That's right. That gives the defining terms that we all use. It was for the creation of either constitutional monarchies or republics. And most people don't know what a republic is, but even some of the law dictionaries you'll find where they just outright spit it out. It's called the natural law. It is anything that is defined by the natural law. The natural law was written on by many different philosophers. Solon was one. Plato wrote Plato's Republic. That was the basis of his. And so this is what they try to keep, and they recognize that this law was the only one that made sense. And so the original founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the U.S. Constitution, are all written under the auspices of the Law of Nations. And so that's where we find definitions like inhabitant, natural born citizen. You just name it, it's in there. And these are all well defined by 1782. This was the most common book in the, or I should say, college book in the New World of the former British colonies. And Alexander Hamilton used it in, I want to say, 1783 in a trespassing trial. He used that and won his trial. So it was not an unknown book, but through our own ignorance and, of course, our places of higher learning, they don't want people to know about the Law of Nations. They're scared to death.
No, they don't. So you're familiar with our work, and you're familiar that we're basically taking the Constitution one clause at a time and explaining to people that the Congress, neither the Congress, the President, the Senate, the House of Representatives, the Supreme Court, none of them are restricted by that document anymore, and mostly because the people don't know the document is theirs to enforce. They're not supposed to be sitting back waiting for the government to enforce it upon themselves. The people are supposed to be enforcing it upon the government. That's what the 9th and 10th Amendment is all about. We were put under the jurisdiction of the Congress in the 14th Amendment. That is unconstitutional. We were not under the jurisdiction of any government. The governments were under our jurisdictions through constitutions. That's what Republican form of government is. The only ones we should be under the jurisdiction of is witnesses to us committing a crime and a jury to decide our punishment. That's the only jurisdiction we should have, and that's where it goes back to exactly what you said, natural law.
Yeah, well, here's something that you ought to find amazing. I wrote up a little article in my notes, and it's called The Galloping Executive. And what it is we have a skewed view of the executive office. He is not really supposed to have that much control unless the Senate wants him to, and the Senate has to bargain it out with the House of Representatives for the House of Representatives to get the president to be in charge of his own administration in the way that they want it.
You come so close. You come so close to. I'm sitting there waiting for you to say it. The president is only the executive of the Congress. He is not constitutionally the executive of the individual states.
That's right, and moreover, he's not the commander in chief. He's not. He's really not anything. Yeah, until war is declared. But he's only first admiral and first general, giving general direction to the forces of this country, as per Alexander Hamilton in Federalist 69.
Yeah. And
so those are the things that the people they don't want to know it, and that's the problem. We've had every time we've had a popular uprising, the first thing that runs up is an Article 5. Let's do Article 5. And by the time you've shown that it can't be done in times of turmoil within our own government where they're not obeying, by the time you get that, then the popular uprising's dead. So what goes on is there's no more constitutional study, okay? And that's wrong. You're supposed to study the Constitution. You're supposed to know it. You're supposed to have a working knowledge of it, not only to vote in it, but you're supposed to have at least a working knowledge of it in order for you to run for office. Because if you take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And don't know it.
And that's right. You're in violation of that oath the minute you take it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this on writing that. I brought up the impeachment of Andrew Johnson, and Johnson actually exclaimed that the 14th and 15th Amendment were not properly ratified or even engaged.
About that time period, what do you know about March 2nd, 1867?
Say that again?
Do you know about the Reconstruction Act of March 2nd of 1867, where the Congress gave the military the power to go into the tenants that wouldn't ratify the 14th and remove their lawfully elected legislative and replace it with ones who would ratify it?
That's right. That's right. Okay. And so those are those types of amendments. The Supreme Court allowed it because they said it was a wartime measure. No. It was unconstitutional. Either the states were members of the United States at that time, the Confederacy, or they were not. And so Lincoln danced around that issue of whether they were or they were not. He claims that they never had the authority to leave, which according to the law of nations, they did have that authority.
Yep.
And number two is that they couldn't. They couldn't vote on anything because they had left the Constitution. Or they left the Constitution. They abandoned it. Which, if that's true, then he did the illegal war in either case. So nonetheless, it was treason.
If they were actually out of the Union, it wasn't treason. But according to the Congress, they never left, so that would be treason.
That's right. Well, the 16th and 17th Amendments were never properly ratified either.
Not properly, correct.
And the 16th, even if it is properly ratified, it doesn't do anything except remove the need for a census and apportionment of taxes among the several states. Remember, we are not in the Constitution, and we are not, as citizens, we are not subject to it. We are the masters of it.
We're not parties to it.
Therefore, we cannot be taxed. We are not a taxable subject under the Constitution.
Yeah.
The 17th Amendment, they just ran that up the flagpole and saw who would salute it.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
You can vote for more people. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, if the 15th is gone, which this won't solve our problem, but I'd love to be able to see them try to build a larger House of Representatives, because the 15th also suspended the increasing of numbers of representatives beyond the 435 that we already have.
Okay. You're throwing stuff at me I didn't know yet.
That's not going to solve our problem now, but I would love to see the mayhem that erupts on in Congress once these guys would get in and start voting. But what we need to do is start raising Cain about unconstitutionally voted in. Really, what we need to do is just get the Senate, just press about the 17th, and get the Senate reinstated as being controlled by the states. That's 50% of it right there.
Yeah. Well, the Congress is supposed to be the voice of the people versus the voice of the state, with the president sitting in between as a moderator.
Yeah.
Antone, I am not going to do any more of these shows without sending you PM my Word document, and I want your input on every one of the rest of my shows. I may or may not include what you say. I want your input. I want at least to hear your input on everything I write for the rest of these shows.
I have some other wonderful constitutional scholars, actual scholars. I'm not a scholar. I am a student. I'm still learning. But
Me too.
I actually
Pass
have
it around. Pass it around. I want all the input I can.
And if you want to, you can go up on my Facebook and go to my notes and read some of these notes that I've written.
I will. We've been friends for a little while on Facebook. I did not. This is the first time I had any clue that you were this educated on it. And we're going to talk more. And we're going to have to, after I'm done with the series, right now we're focusing on just clause by clause, explaining the clauses, and when we're done, depending on the input from audience, I don't know how much longer I'm going to pay the Blog Talk fee to stay on after the series is done. That time will tell. We're going to have to get you on and just do a show too, but we're going to finish the series
that'd be
first.
Great. And yeah, and you want to know what? Instant message me. I'll send you my phone number. You can send me yours, and we can have some late night chats or something.
Well, we just might have to do that. I could write it down now, but we'll get to that. I'm going to definitely be sending you PMs with my documents that I've written, and I want your input. And you know what? We'll just send each other our phone numbers on PM, and then it'll be there if we ever want to call. And yeah, we might just sit around and talk sometime. Of course, midnight might. My wife might not like that. She likes, especially in the wintertime, she wants a warm body keeping her warm. She doesn't. She doesn't want me up till 2:00 in the morning talking to someone on the phone. But we'll talk probably. But mostly let's talk here. Every show we
sure.
do the monologue, and then we take callers and do just what we're doing right now.
That'd be great.
All right.
I run a constitutional study group, and it's called the Arkansans and Daughters for Liberty.
Is that on Facebook?
Yeah, I'll send you an invite, or you can
invite.
Just look it up, Arkansans and Daughters for Liberty. It's on my Facebook profile.
We will talk more, sir, and thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you very much, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Well, I think we're going to wrap the show up for tonight. And just thank everybody for calling. I would like to thank everyone for listening in tonight. Whether you listened in live, whether you are listening to a recording in our Blog Talk Radio archives, or whether you are viewing us on our YouTube channel, we humbly appreciate your presence. For those of you who are not already viewing our YouTube channel, you can find us by searching YouTube for the Constitution Explained in Children's Terms. Not only should the results be our individual shows, there should also be an icon to click to take you to our channel, where you will find all of our shows listed as we manage to get them uploaded. For those of you who would like to join our Facebook group, I don't know the workings of Facebook, nor understand why a Facebook search for the U.S. Constitution Explained in Children's Terms does not bring up our group. You can find me and send me a private message asking me to add you to our group. Do a Facebook search for Harry, that's Harry, know him as, Noemas. Send me a friend request and a private message telling me that you would like to be added to our group, and I will accept and add you. That's our show for tonight. However, I would like to leave you with an important thought. We cannot repaint the past. We cannot even recolor today. Tomorrow is a whole different story waiting for us to mark it whatever shade we prefer. Good night, everyone.